Our liberties and our nation's glorious destiny will no longer be denied, and we will immediately restore the integrity, competency, and loyalty of America's government. Over the past 8 years, I have been tested and challenged more than any president in our 250-year history, and I've learned a lot along the way. The journey to reclaim our republic has not been an easy one, that I can tell you. Those who wish to stop our cause have tried to take my freedom and indeed to take my life. Just a few months ago in a beautiful Pennsylvania field, an assassin's bullet ripped through my ear. But I felt then, and believe even more so now, that my life was saved for a reason. I was saved by God to make America great again. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. That is why each day under our administration of American patriots, we will be working to meet every crisis with dignity and power and strength. We will move with purpose and speed to bring back hope, prosperity, safety, and peace for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. For American citizens, January 20th, 2025 is Liberation Day.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate that. And thank you for being here. I know this has been a long day. I am the junior most senator, so you know I go last. But ever since I got here, and it's been a whole week, I get told two things when I rush up to my fellow senators. Number one, are you Senator Britt? And number two, you know the Senate is a body that is deliberative and calm. And I'm anything but. So I don't know how the next couple of years is going to look, but I hope that they'll bear with me. Serving as the AG over the last 4 years, I've seen a lot of things out of these agencies that I never thought we'd see in the United States of America. I know my fellow attorneys general around the nation would agree with me. In fact, some of them are here today to support you. I'd love to introduce them if they'll stand up. The Attorney General from South Carolina, the former Utah Attorney General, Sean Reyes. I'm sorry, Alan Wilson, I didn't say your name, South Carolina AG. And Louisiana AG, Liz Merrill. They joined me. Thank you for being here. They joined me in signing on to a letter supporting your nomination. And we did that while I was still the Attorney General over a week ago. They came here today to support you. And Mr. Chairman, I know that you've been referencing a lot of letters that you've been entered into evidence. I'd like this to be entered into the record. Sorry, I'm talking like a trial lawyer. With consent, please, sir. This is signed by 24 states' attorneys general that support the nomination of Mr. Patel. One of the things that I have been most upset about is watching federal agencies take more and more and more power and step all over the dual sovereignty of state and local law enforcement and investigations and prosecutions. I know you, like me, served in both the state criminal justice system and the federal criminal justice system. I was a federal prosecutor, a state judge, and a state attorney general, and I know you crossed over those jurisdictions. Do I have your commitment as the director of the FBI that you will respect dual sovereignty of the federal government, the FBI, to pursue its investigations of federal laws, and respect local and state law enforcement pursuing violations of their own laws, even when there may be overlap of investigations?
Senator, not only do you have my commitment, if you may, for the first time ever, the National Sheriff's Association has endorsed the nominee to be the director of the FBI. 3,100 sheriff's deputies across the country have endorsed me. For one reason, I think, primarily, because I'm committed to local level law enforcement and state jurisdiction. Washington, D.C. cannot fix the problems of this country, but everyday cops can and do it every single day. And so if I'm confirmed as FBI director, we're going to work with local law enforcement because they're going to tell us what they need, and we're going to give them everything we can. But we are not going to trample on local law enforcement because they're the ones keeping our communities safe just as much as anyone here.
The citizens of Florida will be happy to hear that, as well as Americans. As you know, after the second assassination attempt, which took place in the state of Florida against a Florida resident, now President Donald Trump, many people were surprised that that could happen in just over 2 months. Many people were shocked that a would-be assassin could get that close to a president after it had just happened so quickly. So needless to say, many Americans, and certainly Floridians, demanded a transparent and accountable investigation of that second assassination attempt. I was tasked, along with law enforcement in Florida, to pursue that investigation. And every step of the way, federal law enforcement, the FBI specifically, and the attorneys, federal attorneys, frustrated our efforts, told us we couldn't go on the crime scene, they wouldn't share evidence, they suggested that we would be violating the law if we pursued our own investigation, even in the face of us telling them and informing them that a 6-year-old girl almost died as a result of state and local law enforcement having to shut down the roads to pursue that would-be assassin, and I'm not going to use his name. In an unprecedented action, because of these frustrated efforts, I, as the Attorney General of Florida, had to sue the DOJ and Merrick Garland because they refused and obstructed our ability to prosecute and investigate our own laws against one of our own citizens, even in the face of such distrust of the FBI, who was pursuing an investigation against the victim himself. So at a time when you have data that shows that Americans' trust in the FBI is at its lowest point in history, when the FBI is not trusted by local and state law enforcement, can you think of a better time for the FBI to say, yes, Florida, investigators, come in, let's work this together, not to the detriment of the investigation, but in a collaborative effort? Can you think of a better time to have done that rather than hide beside some law that they said prevented us from moving forward with our own investigation?
Senator, off the top of my head, I can't, but let me just say this. Law enforcement is not supposed to be territorial. Law enforcement is not supposed to be a turf battle. Law enforcement is best done in this country when it is complementary, and it should have been done in that instance.
Do I have your commitment? Now, mind you, I'd like to enter into evidence the complaint that we filed against Merrick Garland, the complaint for declaratory and injunctive relief. This was a result of the FBI obstructing our investigation at every turn. Do I have your commitment that as soon as you are confirmed, which I believe you will be, that you will address this suit, interface with the investigators and the lawyers in Florida, and begin cooperating with us so that we might pursue justice for that little girl?
Absolutely, Senator.
And I'll just finally end with, yes, I have had a lot of work experiences, as you have, working on the front lines with law enforcement to go after those violating laws. But I am also the wife of a law enforcement agent, federal, now local. We need somebody at the helm that understands the mission is to stand on that line between good and evil, between crime and chaos. There is no other mission. And we trust that you're going to right-size this agency and set it back on course. And I am proud to support you.
Thank you, Senator.
Is there any objection among the committee for her request to insert things in the record? I hear none. So
what are you talking about?
I'd like to have it. Let me ask you a question. I know the president fairly well, watched him survive 2 assassination attempts. Had the first one not happened, the second one would have gotten him. It was very, because without those extra guys, they would have never seen that gun poking through the fence at the golf course. I saw the crew that you had.
Isn't it like mind-blowing that this has happened? I mean, it just... And what, by the way, why do we still know nothing about that guy in Butler? What's going on? Cash is going to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, there you go.
By the way,
Confirmed just a couple hours ago, but I saw that the security detail that you had come in is enormous.
Well, it's not that enormous. Maybe it should be bigger. I don't know.
I think you could probably afford it. But I mean, how concerned are you about your safety? Dealing, I mean, you are a wanted man. Are you nervous?
So, look, I'm open to ideas for improving security, I have to tell you. I don't actually have a death wish, I think. But you know, it's not that easy. Yeah. I mean, but I have I've had even people like President Bukele from El Salvador who managed to put in prison I don't know 100,000 murderous thugs. And he was like, he called me, he's like, I'm worried about your security. I'm like, you're worried about my security? I'm like, what? Okay. That's you know.
I mean, yeah, talk about guts to do that down there. I mean,
yeah, totally.
And survive.
I was like, how did you put all those thugs in prison without dying? Because it seems like that would have been not easy, you know.
Well, the president has, one of his top attorneys is now investigating, I guess, Chuck Schumer for threats against SCOTUS, a congressman on the Democrat side, for saying, you know, basically saying we're going to bring a war to you, like a fight to you. I mean, the rhetoric. You guys are screwing with things that are not supposed to be messed with. And
we're fighting the Matrix.
There's a lot of people that really don't want that to happen.
Yeah, we're fighting the Matrix big time here. But it's got to be done.
Yeah.
For the job.
Yes.
When we talk to the president's voters, they bring up a couple issues. One, it's been 3 months and they still haven't gotten down to the 2020 election. They're concerned about the whole voting situation, and they also want to know about what happened to the assassination attempt.
Those are all great questions. So
they're really concerned.
Those are all great questions. The Department of Justice, of course, is working on all three of the things that you just mentioned, and hopefully we'll have a further update soon. I can tell you on election integrity that the president recently signed an executive order that was the most comprehensive election integrity order that was ever issued. And as you may recall, that included in it a requirement to verify citizenship to vote. Another example where a district court judge lawlessly intervened, enjoined that requirement. Now think about this. Congress passed a law, making it a crime, a felony, for non-citizens to vote. And yet a judge has enjoined the executive branch from enforcing and upholding that statutory requirement. So the courts, the radical rogue judges, they don't care what Congress said, they don't care about what the Constitution says, they're just imposing their own Marxist agenda on the whole country. And that's
January
obviously...
6th, they want to follow up on January 6th.
Yeah, so I mean, the Department of Justice is investigating all of the issues that you mentioned. I wish I had a full update for you now, but I can assure you that our Attorney General, our Deputy Attorney General, our FBI Director, now Ed Martin, at the Weaponization Working Group will all be, and of course we put up a new DC Attorney, will all be diligently working on ensuring accountability and justice. Yes, Beck.
Giving it up to publicly serve our country. Reagan.
Thanks, Caroline. Last week, the president told Brett Baer that he trusts his people, but thinks that the official narrative on his assassination attempts are, quote, a little bit odd. FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino said days later that there's no conspiracy to find, and as he put it, quote, the there that you're looking for is not there. My question is the president personally satisfied with the investigations into the attempts on his life? And does he agree with Deputy FBI Director, or does he think there's more to it?
Well, in the lead up to your question, you answered your own question with the president's own words, and I'll leave it at that. Sure, go ahead, Haley.
Thank you.
Donald Trump Jr., everybody.
What's going on, guys? Man, Charlie, I remember when we were starting these out, and
it was that.
You know, it was like this. It was like your average.
The first 3 rows.
It was like your average political meeting where there was like 12 people in a room, and this is awesome. And there were no young people.
And now we have thousands and thousands of young people from all across the country.
No, it's amazing. And thank you guys for doing all of it. I know it's summer vacation, and it doesn't seem like there's ever a vacation anymore. It's always nuts out there, but it's amazing to see you guys as involved as you are, watching what's going on, being vocal, having that next generation in there is so fundamentally important. So I just love seeing you guys out there. So thank you for all of that. It really makes a big difference, and was obviously huge last November.
Yeah, and the theme of what we're talking about is fulfilling the mandate, especially for the younger voters in this audience. Last week, the One Big Beautiful Bill was finally passed and signed into law. And one of the components of the One Big Beautiful Bill, the most important, is fully funding ICE, fully funding the deportation effort. What would your perspective be? Your father has said no amnesty under any circumstances whatsoever. Talk about the need for mass deportations and how we will not put up with any amnesty whatsoever.
Listen, it's so fundamentally critical. I mean, it was really the #1 issue we all campaigned on. We see what it did to so much of America, what it did to so many communities, and honestly, what it did to so many of the low-income communities in this country, where people were just sweeping those jobs, and ultimately everyone's potential American dream was getting wiped away. And so the Big Beautiful Bill, the funding of the wall, the funding of ICE, is so fundamentally important to actually getting these things done, right? We saw what we could do about just the border itself, but now you have 20 million people probably. I imagine they don't even know. Just getting in there, they're getting all the benefits, the benefits that you guys pay for yourselves, that your parents probably paid for all of you guys. They get that with no contribution to the system, and that was by design under the Biden administration. So to have the funding to start the mass deportations, but more importantly, the parts of the bill that literally cut off all of the freebies that were just draining our coffers, but more importantly, were a calling card to the rest of the world. Be like, come here, we'll give you everything. The health care that you got gets diluted because you get to pay for thousands of others, millions of others, tens of millions of others, who will likely never even pay into the system. It doesn't work. It doesn't work in any other country, and there's a reason no other country was doing it. So, that was a fundamental aspect of the Big Beautiful Bill, to now actually have the funding to do this. And it was sort of amazing to me how much even reluctance there was from so many, allegedly on our side, who's, well, it's just controversial. You're gonna have to deport someone. Listen, there's gonna be good people that this happens to too, but there are millions of criminals, and this is Joe Biden's ICE. I mean, when I saw the statistics, I literally couldn't believe that a civilization could survive when our Western values, our culture, the civilization itself, when they literally admitted, and this is Biden ICE stats, so this is probably diluted a lot, but 600,000 criminals, 13,000 murderers. I mean, think about that. 13,000 murderers were let into the country. They knew they were murderers, and they let them into the country. 16,000 rapists. Okay, add those together. You got what, 30,000, let's call it. 30,000 murderers and rapists. There's about 4,000 counties in America. Imagine you spread them out, evenly throughout that. Yeah, we'll throw 7 murderers or rapists into every county in America. How's that going to work? Wait, what's the end game there? And that's what was going on.
The end game is Lake and Riley. And the end game is Rachel Morin, which is dead people all across the country because of the open border.
Yeah. So, that has to stop. They got to get rid of that. And they have to also do a lot more, because they have to enable the Americans to have a chance. We have to be able to innovate, grow, be productive enough to create the wages necessary in a lot of these businesses that Americans will actually work there. We've seen what happens when some of these places, oh, it's going to be a disaster. Oh, wow, there's a line of Americans ready to do some of these jobs. A big part of it was also, from the corporate tax cut standpoint, right? That's great. I mean, I'm a business guy. I love the corporate tax cuts. But I think what was really unique about the BBB was how much time, energy, and political capital my father put into making sure those tax cuts translate down to working class Americans. Okay, when you have the no tax on tips, all of these ideas, they're going to benefit Americans so greatly. The original tax plan from the first administration, it did just that. Everyone said, oh, it's just corporate, it's just corporate. But I think the stats were like close to 90% of Americans, like regular people, got thousands and thousands of dollars in real benefits to them. And that's the idea. I mean, his fundamental purpose is to make sure that those real Americans, the hardworking Americans who've seen their wages diminished with inflation, we're getting that under control too, but that were really struggling for the last few years, actually get to see the benefits of these cuts. And again, it's one of those things where my father had to go way out of his way because, you know, the Republican class, well, we're going to do it for corporations and maybe some of that will trickle down. No. You know, it's going to be about the Americans, about getting them the most benefit out of this. And that's how everyone wins.
And so this last week, President Trump has been in a feud with California over the transgender sports thing. We're both fathers of daughters. Your daughter is a very good golfer. I mean, what this whole like men in female sports.
Wow.
I told you she had a lot of fans here.
Yeah.
I tried to tell you.
You know, it's funny.
I was like, Don, and he's like,
I don't want to say we created a monster, but by chance it sort of happened almost. I mean, it'll be a year ago in 2 days. I was with her on July 13th when my father was shot. And I got the unusual call from my daughter that morning saying, hey, I want to go fishing, which, you know, if you have a teenage daughter, you guys are teenage daughters or so, yeah, you're not often calling dad to go do something. So when you call dad, she's nodding, she's like, yep. When you call dad, he's going to do it, right? It doesn't matter. So it wasn't even the perfect day. I was like, yep, I'm going to go get bait. We're going to go deal with it. We're going to go fishing. And, you know, we were out probably 13, 14 miles offshore, having a great day, catching fish. And we got the call, and I picked up my phone. And it's like, your dad's been shot. I'm like, and well, we don't know anything. I'm like, oh, that's wonderful. There's calls that are good and bad. That's only a call that has degrees of bad, right? And we didn't know anything, and we're frantically kind of calling. I guess the only thing that I guess they did right that day was shut down other communications, and so I think we set the sea speed record from offshore into Jupiter where we live, and finally we're able to get my dad on the phone, and it was sort of a harrowing thing. By then we had seen some of the videos of him coming back up with the sort of fight, and I just got on the phone. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not usually at a loss for words, but that was one of those where I was like, I got nothing, but I was like, that's the most badass thing I've ever seen. I was like, I'm not sure if it's like tactically the most intelligent thing I've ever seen either. Yeah, just stand up again. What could go wrong? So I was like, but it was this sort of somber moment, and finally it was just, again, it got awkward enough. I was like, okay, so we got to ask the most important question, which is, how's the hair? And he gave me the, Don, the hair is fine. It's a little bloody. There was a lot of blood, Don. But the hair is fine. It'll be good. Gonna have to wash it. And it sort of broke the ice, and I'm not gonna say it got normal again, but it normalized the situation. And my daughter was with me, and Kai has probably spent more time with my dad one-on-one than I have, and I'm a lot older than her, largely because of golf, and she's like his golf buddy, and she plays with him every weekend when he was around, and that was all the time. And she called me that next morning, and she's like, you know what, I want to speak at the RNC. It wasn't, and to be clear, it's my daughter, so it wasn't exactly I want to, like it wasn't a question, it was like I'm going to. And I'm just like, I guess I'll bump some governor, like just,
And you did.
Well, I didn't do anything. I called my dad. This was like a 6 o'clock in the morning call. He picks up on the first ring. I'm like, hey, you doing good? By the way, Kai wants to speak at the RNC. And he just goes, whoa. Well, listen, when you do this every day, by the way, we've seen guys that do this every day and still blow that, right? When there's 40,000 people and you're in a stadium and there's 10 million, 20 million people watching on television, and you've never given a speech in your life, that is not easy. It's hard for most people, again, who do it. It's like they're used to a small crowd, and that's easy. It's a lot of pressure. And he's just like, that's a big one. That could go wrong really quickly, and we understand how bad that can go. But he just thought about it for a second. He goes, you know what? That kid's a winner. She'll do great. Like, that was it. Like, congratulations. She'll open for you, and, like, we'll bump someone and make it happen. And she's done a pretty good job since then. So, yeah, she's amazing.
So then, and President Trump deserves so much credit making sure men are not going to be in female sports, which is the kind of connection. So she's a great golfer. How do you interpret how the Democrat Party continually embracing this men and female sports issue? What is their reluctance to just moderate on this issue?
You know what? I love it. I think it's such a top issue, especially for like a lot of the demographics that, men sort of understand it intrinsically. I think, a lot of soccer moms around America sort of, their entire currency, was virtue signaling, right? And like they latched onto this thing. And I think it was one of the guys from Daily Wire actually gave me credit a couple months ago. They were like, wow, Don Jr. was on this issue in 2017, because before it was really a thing, you'd see it. Like some dude would win a high school girls like track championship and they're getting a scholarship to the finest university for track. And I'm like, yeah, but it's a dude. And this was Twitter 1.0. So let's just say guys like you and I and probably everyone else in this room, we were definitely in the minority there. It was 95-5, 90-10, conservative to, raging libtard. And even then, though, I'd put it up, like, this is insane. And I'd read the comments, and it was, just people who were just waiting to comment on anything, to hate on me, whatever it is, and I feed off the hate. It's great. It's fine. But I remember reading the comments and being like, wow, this is a losing issue for them, because even the people who hated my guts were like, ugh. Oh, I hate Don Jr. so much, but he's right. Next comment, oh, I can't believe I agree with Don Jr. on something. That's how ridiculous it was, like before it became a thing. And then, the trans mafia, which was, the most beyond reproach organization in the history of the world. I've never seen a group of people that probably comprise like 0.02% of its society they were infallible, right? They could do no wrong. They were obviously right. And the Democrats fed into even against like, gay liberals who were like, wait a second. We fought for decades to be able to get, equality, and they don't want equality. They want equality plus. This is insane. So, I think it's asinine. I think it was a great issue for people across the board, for reasonable people who weren't sort of politically entrenched, for independents. And I love that even knowing this now, even years later, even when it's an abject fail, they literally can't help but continue to go all in on the issue. It's a 90-10 issue, and if Trump is in the 90, they just got to take the 100% of the other 10 and back it 1,000%. So I'm glad to see that they're still doing it. Because I think it helps us in the long run.
It's bad for the country, good for our policies.
But it is a disaster for the country. It's a disaster for our daughters. It's an absolute embarrassment. Again, as a father of a girl athlete, to say that, like, hey, you're just going to have to deal with it because that guy's 8 inches taller than you and stronger.
Have you had to deal with that?
Not yet.
How would you?
I'd be vocal. I'd be.
And what's your advice
for
parents that have to deal? I think dads need to start rising up and saying, we're not going to put up with this stuff. What is this?
No, hey.
And because I know you, I don't think you would put up with this.
No, not even, like, and this will get me into trouble, but like, you have to call it out. Enough of the nonsense. Like, there's no political capital in destroying your child's future to be woke, to be able to get the applause, from, that crowd who hates your guts anyway. And so, I think it's so fundamentally important that we all have to become unafraid to speak up on these kinds of issues. And when you do, you realize there's actually a lot of us. It's the vast majority. But again, for years, we've been put into these corners. There was a time where if you said these things, you'd be canceled. You'd be thrown off social media. You'd be thrown out of the PTA meeting. You couldn't do that. So we have to stand strong for this. I've gone through enough of the child athlete sports thing. I have 5 kids. I'll get in trouble as a dad again for saying this, which is like, there's nothing quite as painful as like a 3-year-old's like triple header in softball. Like, if you're going to put in years of that kind of time, and then your daughter or your kid becomes a great athlete, and you just say, oh, well, I guess it was a good run. They're better than the other girls, but there's 3 dudes that just took their spot. I guess we're just going to take it. That's not going to work. That's the way society fails.
So in closing here, Don, because I know that, and thank you for being generous with your time. You got a packed schedule. The question we get a lot from the audience is, Charlie, how do I deal with the hate? picking up on something you said. You said it briefly. You said, the hate fuels me. I love the hate.
Yeah.
Because if you look at these amazing students, and do you notice, Don, we give the best tickets to our students?
They should.
Right? These are the warriors right here. And so when they say, Charlie, how do I deal with the hate at my high school? How do I deal with the hate at my college? You are uniquely positioned to be able to answer that because you've been hauled in front of Congress. You've been investigated. You've had a decade of hate. I think you have the second most death threats in the country next to your father.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? And what's your advice to the patriots of all ages that don't know how to deal with that kind of hate?
Listen, you get used to it, okay? So for me, it actually started less about just the hate. It was more about, the cancel culture. It was, we built hotels and buildings. We did that in a lot of cities. Most of them are liberal cities. We were, I got invited to every cool person party in New York City for decades. And then, it was gone like that. And I was like, wow, like these people that I thought were friends for decades, they don't call anymore. Then when you won, they called it, oh, I love what you were doing. I was like, no, dude, I was reading your Facebook post. Like, you're just trying to have the best of both worlds. It does take time, but I realized it was actually better, even from a business standpoint, to be a leader for a large group. If it was 50% of the country, it's like, wow, there's still something there, right? I'd rather be thought of by them as someone who's willing to have that conviction to fight for these things than be sort of agnostic to the general population. It was just another guy that was there. So it took a lot of time. I mean, it took a lot of, we lost hundreds of millions in business, not just on the sort of the lawfare side of things that we were fighting, but just people canceling as well. One person in a group of 100 doesn't like you, so we're just not going to go to your hotels. That was hard to get used to, but once you got used to it, you realized there's still hope. And what you're fighting for is so much more important in the grand scheme of things. Again, you don't have to do everything like I did. I sort of took the aggressive approach on everything. You can have these conversations respectfully. I love what you do, and we did this in 16 and 15.
Been doing it for 10 years. Don and I, who thinks Don should come to a college campus with me this semester? Wouldn't that be great?
I think
by popular demand.
By popular demand. Listen, we were doing it before it was like a daily thing. When it was like, hey, once a month we went to Penn State. We went to one.
It was aggressive.
Up in Michigan State. We went up there. This is a 16 campaign, and it was me and Charlie and another friend of ours, Tommy. Yeah, and we literally were about to get on the stage, and the state police were there, and they showed up. The state police, like the Michigan State Police showed up and were like, hey man, we can't tell you not to do this, but like, this is bad. And the university, of course, made sure that all the radicals could get in, even though we oversold to the groups that were people like us.
You guys know what we're
talking about. And that was fine. You've seen all of this. And they go, we can't stop you from doing it, but we also can't guarantee your safety. And we're putting out like a notice right now that like, you should not do this. Like, it's against, common sense to be going out there. And we basically looked at each other.
Let's go.
I literally said, like, I would rather get my ass kicked right here, right now, than capitulate to the woke mob. And we did. And it was actually amazing. We were backstage. We were about to go on. And, like, what was it? It was like the offensive line of the football team showed up. Like, it's like, we love you guys. We're just here. If anything goes wrong, don't you worry. Like, I mean, these guys were like our unhired, unannounced, like, security detail. I'm looking at this guy. I'm not a small guy. I'm 6'1", 195. And I was like looking at this guy. I was like, I don't want to meet that guy if he's on the other side. But like, we went out, and the energy in the room, there was a tension. And, our guys sort of hit these guys with facts and reality and just sort of shut them down. And so, what Charlie does when he goes there, he doesn't lose his cool. He keeps his temper. He talks about facts. And you realize their arguments fall apart so quickly because they don't actually have anything other than sort of the high-level soundbite that they're talking about. And so when you're able to reason with them, you see most of these people, they walk away, they're like, oh, I thought I was going to own this guy, and they're broken when they walk off the stage. Everyone sees it. Everyone knows it. So you don't have to do it perhaps the way we did it. And I'm even trying to alter some of that now because now, again, there's a broader coalition. We don't have to just be so forceful with it. You can do it with facts, logic, reason, and decency.
Don, I speak on behalf of all of our students. Thank you for all you do for our movement. You work your tail off. Donald Trump Jr., everybody.
Thank you, guys.
We had a great time at the big soccer match today at the Meadowlands. It was phenomenal. It was A little bit of an upset, I guess I would say, but it was a great match, very well played, tremendous crowd. And that's sort of a pre-World Cup. We have World Cup coming, we have Olympics coming, and we have 250 years coming. That's going to be a big one, maybe the biggest one of all. So that was great. We had some tremendous financial numbers released on Friday, as you probably heard, that our country made $25 billion last month. $25 billion. It hasn't done that in a long time, and a lot of that's done because of good management, and number one, and maybe even more importantly, the tariffs that are pouring in. We have tariffs pouring in at levels that we have never seen before, and they've only just started. That's really a small portion. It's mostly from cars and aluminum and steel, a little bit of lumber. But they'll really start in about another week. And then in about a month, they'll come in at levels that are extremely strong. And our country's making a lot of money, We're dealing with other countries, and certain countries that would rather have a deal than a regular tariff. And we're willing, if they're willing to open up. These are countries that have been shut to us, but we've been open to them. In other words, they wouldn't let us do business there, but they would do business in our country. Not a fair deal. So the European Union is talking to us. They want to open up their country. I would say Japan to a much lesser extent in terms of opening up their country. Japan, as you know, and we're very close to Japan, but they sell us millions and millions of cars a year. We sell them no cars because they won't accept our cars. And they won't accept much of our agriculture either. So, but they're all changing their ways very, very rapidly. South Korea wants to make a deal other than tariffs. Right now, as you know, they're paying a substantial tariff, but they want to make a difference. So some of these deals, maybe I'll change them and maybe I won't. But our country is making a lot of money for the first time in a long time, in decades. And that's the way it should be. We have a country that's, and I said it the other day to you people, we have a country that was dead. It was dead. It was a goner 1 year ago, and now we have the hottest country in the world. Okay, questions?
That would go to illegal benefits. What does that mean to the bottom line that we're taking away a lot of the fraud and abuse to illegal?
Getting rid of a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse. One of the reasons I think that you'll see the numbers start to be very good for the country, but I think more than anything else, we have tariffs coming in the will be hundreds of billions of dollars. Gaza, we are talking, and hopefully we're going to get that straightened out over the next week. Let's see what happens.
So Gavin Newsom is fighting. Gavin Newsom's fighting to keep men and women's sports. He's fighting with Bondi, McMahon. As a father, as a husband, does he hate women? Why does he want men and women's sports so badly?
No, I don't know if he hates women, but look, he thinks it's good politically, I guess. He's just saying Gavin Newsom wants to keep men in women's sports. Nobody understands it. Very few. I say it's a 3% issue. You know, they say it's 80-20. It's not 80-20. I think it's 97-3.
So Rosie O'Donnell, she went on Chris Cuomo's show recently. She blames you for the fact that she's overweight, depressed, and drunk. What do you say to that? Do you think TDS is going to ever be a DSM-5 diagnosis?
I don't know about Rosie. I watch Rosie. Rosie's a mess. She's a mess. But she left our country, which is a good thing, not a bad thing. Yeah. Well, I'm going to have a meeting with the Secretary General who's coming in tomorrow. But we basically are going to send them various pieces of very sophisticated military. They're going to pay us 100% for them. And that's the way we want it. And we've been trying to get that again. I don't think Biden ever asked for it. We're in for about $350 billion. Europe is in for $100 billion. That's a lot of money, 100, but they should be in actually for more than us. So as we send equipment, they're going to reimburse us for that equipment. Doesn't that sound good? That's the way it should have been a long time ago. I haven't agreed on the number yet, but they're going to have some because they do need protection. but the European Union is paying for it. We're not paying anything for it, but we will send it. It'll be business for us, and we will send them patriots, which they desperately need, because Putin really surprised a lot of people. He talks nice, and then he bombs everybody in the evening. So there's a little bit of a problem there, and I don't like it. Oh, I think so. I did. I spoke to him today. Dan Bongino, very good guy. I've known him a long time. I've done his show many, many times. And he sounded terrific, actually. No, I think he's in good shape.
I was going to ask you, on this one-year anniversary of Butler, what was going through your mind this morning, Mr. President, as you woke up to start this new day?
Will you repeat that question?
On this one-year anniversary of Butler, what was going through your mind this morning when you woke up? I know that you're praising God you're alive, but a lot of people want to know how you're taking this day on this one-year anniversary.
God was protecting me. Maybe because God wanted to see our country do better or do really well, make America great again. But God was protecting me, Brian. I'll tell you, it's the more you think about it, the more you see it. But no, I don't like to think about it much. You know, I have a job to do, so I don't like to think about it much. It's a little bit of a dangerous profession being president, but I really don't like to think about it too much. I think you're better off not thinking about it.
And you were able to accomplish 20 promises so far.
Yeah, I think we've more than delivered. Thank you for saying that. But, you know, we made a lot of promises, and we've actually given a lot more promises than we even made. Yeah. And you add on that a tremendous success with the strike that we had, getting rid of nuclear weapons in Iran. That was a big, big strike. And, you know, when the pilots came to my office, they were there, as you know, with some of the other people having to do with that strike. And they said something very interesting. They said, you know, we've been practicing this for 22 years, but no president had the guts to tell us to do it. But this has been on our minds for many, many years, and we did it. And I would say from 0 to 10, with 10 being the best, that attack was a 15.
What do you think about this new bill that's going to basically eliminate no capital gains tax on home sales to be able to free up the money? People who've owned a house for a long time can't afford to pay the capital gains.
Yeah, well, we're looking at that, and it could be a very big positive. I don't think for you, because you make so much money, it doesn't matter. But I think it's going to be a great incentive for a lot of people that really need money.
So between that and Jerome Powell stepping down, that could really boost home sales.
Well, I think if Jerome Powell stepped down, it would be a great thing. I don't know that he's going to, but he should. Jerome Powell's been very bad for our country. We should have the lowest interest rate on earth, and we don't. He just refuses to do it, and yet he's spending $2.5 billion rebuilding the Fed, the Federal Reserve building. And I don't know what he knows about building, but you talk about cost overrun. So he got this approved, and he started the work during the Biden administration. And he doesn't look like the kind of a guy, frankly, that wants to spend $2.5 billion. And it's very interesting because out of 71 economists, one person, me, and then one other person, I think from Wharton, got it right, and the others were all wrong in terms of the success of our country this quickly. We have no inflation. We have cash pouring in. It was me and somebody else. And I can tell you, I don't need 5,000 people working for me behind the scenes like Jerome Powell to tell him what he should say once a month, because they got it wrong. The Fed got it wrong. I call him too late. He's always too late. Every point cost us $360 billion. Think of that. And we should be 3 points. That's almost $1 trillion. Approximately $1 trillion less we should be just with the signing of a piece of paper. So we'll see what happens. I mean, you're telling me he's going to quit. I hope he quits. I don't know that he's going to quit, but he should quit because he's been very bad for the country.
On Russia, are you going to be announcing sanctions on Russia tomorrow?
We're going to see what we will see tomorrow, okay? We have the Secretary General. As you know, Europe has announced sanctions. But I am very disappointed with President Putin. You know, I thought he was somebody that meant what he said, and he'll talk so beautifully, and then he'll bomb people at night. We don't like that. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. I think he's in good shape.
this one-year anniversary of Butler, what was going through your mind this morning, Mr. President, as you woke up to start this new day?
Would you repeat that question?
On this one-year anniversary of Butler, what was going through your mind this morning when you woke up? I know that you're praising God you're alive, but a lot of people want to know how you're taking this day on this one-year anniversary.
God was protecting me. Maybe because God wanted to see our country do better or do really well, make America great again. But God was protecting me, Brian. I'll tell you, it's the more you think about it, the more you see it. But no, I don't like to think about it much. You know, I have a job to do, so I don't like to think about it much. It's a little bit of a dangerous profession being president, but I really don't like to think about it too much. I think you're better off not thinking about it.
And you were able to accomplish 20 promises so far.
Yeah, I think we've more than delivered. Thank you for saying that. But, you know, we made a lot of promises, and we've actually given a lot more promises than we even made. Yeah. And you add on that a tremendous success with the strike that we had, getting rid of nuclear weapons in Iran. That was a big, big strike. And, you know, when the pilots came to my office, they were there, as you know, with some of the other people having to do with that strike. And they said something very interesting. They said, you know, we've been practicing this for 22 years, but no president had the guts to tell us to do it. But this has been on our minds for many, many years, and we did it. And I would say from 0 to 10, with 10 being the best, that attack was a 15.
The senator from Iowa.
On July the 13th, 2024, an assassin nearly killed President Trump. The gunman injured him and 2 rally participants and killed Corey Comatera. We keep him, his family in our prayers, as well as everyone affected that day. Today, 1 year and 1 day later, I come to the floor to provide an update on my ongoing oversight of that attempted assassination. The day of the shooting, I launched an investigation focused on gathering and releasing information to the public. I didn't want the public to be kept in the dark. Public transparency stops conspiracy theories. 60 years after JFK's assassination, we still have questions being asked. Unfortunately, there are still aspects to that shooting where the government hasn't been transparent. The Biden administration stonewalled my oversight requests. I strongly urge the new administration to let all the facts breathe, unlike the last administration. The day of the shooting, my oversight unit quickly got to work. They talked to patriotic whistleblowers. They informed dozens of witnesses and interviewed them, including local law enforcement officials, rally-goers, and local businesses. My staff obtained and reviewed weeks' worth of security footage, text messages, pictures, law enforcement briefing materials, after-action reports, and still other records. They also obtained police body camera footage that provided the first video of what happened in the aftermath of that shooting. I made it all public. At the time, my investigative work unveiled the most detailed picture of the Trump assassination attempt. As part of my oversight, I asked the Department of Homeland Security Inspector General to review the matter. I also requested the Government Accountability Office to do the same as I asked the Inspector General to do. The American people wanted answers, They wanted accountability in the aftermath of this tragedy. I worked hard to do just that, and I know there's more work to be done. This past weekend, the Government Accountability Office produced me its report on the July 13 assassination attempt. The Government Accountability Office report starts by stating, quote, "The U.S. Secret Service failed to implement security measures that could have prevented the assassination attempt on then former President Donald J. Trump during a July 13, 2024 campaign rally," end quote. According to the report, prior to the July 13th rally, Secret Service received information from the intelligence community about a threat against President Trump's life. Yet, this threat information wasn't shared with Secret Service personnel or local law enforcement officials, all responsible for securing that event. Clearly, had all federal, state, and local law enforcement officials known of this threat, it would have changed how they secured the AGR building where the sniper opened fire from. As I previously made public, Secret Service and its local partners had cell phone issues on July 13th. The Government Accountability Office report found that Secret Service didn't have a policy to assess cellular service at the site, even though communication is key during any major event like this. This resulted in the Secret Service not receiving real-time threat information and updates during the search for the gunman. Every delayed second in finding the gunman meant that he was one step closer to carrying out his evil objective. I previously made public documents showing that the Secret Service had issues with counter-drone system at the rally. The General Government Accountability Office confirmed my previous oversight. GAO found that the Secret Service's counter-drone operator lacked the training, the knowledge, and support to fix and operate the counter-drone system. According to the Government Accountability Office report, these problems occurred because the Secret Service didn't follow its own requirements that personnel must complete training before operating a counter-drone system. The GAO report says the Secret Service said using a counter-drone is like turning on a flashlight. Yet the counter-drone did not work, and the Secret Service could not fix it. Had a counter-drone been operating as planned, it could have identified the shooter's drone and even the shooter. The Government Accountability Office's report also found that Secret Service planned to use farm equipment to address a line of sight issue when securing the AGR building. Before the rally, a campaign staffer asked Secret Service to modify the plan, which the advance team did as the staffer requested. But they didn't notify senior officials overseeing the rally of these changes. If they had, the senior officials might have overruled them. While the report says the Secret Service has made changes to correct some of these problems, they still have more work to do. The Secret Service operates in a zero-fail mission, and they don't have room for any error. Every failure exposed by the Government Accountability Office report must be turned into positive changes in the Secret Service. I want my colleagues to know that I'll be riding herd on them until I'm satisfied the job is done. I want to close out by thanking the law enforcement officers serving on the front lines, including the Secret Service, Capitol Police, their law enforcement partners, and of course their families, all working hard and sacrificing to keep the public and the government safe. I am grateful to you all, and do not in the future then take the days that seem uneventful for granted. I yield the floor.
None whatsoever.
We've seen how good your security detail is this weekend, and the team around you are amazing.
Good job.
Amazing. Do you have any answers yet as to what happened with the assassination attempt? Having seen them in action, it seems remarkable that was
You mean the assassination with... They just weren't as good that day. They had a bad day. They shouldn't have had a roof that was, unpatrolled. They should have had coordination with the local police because, you had a lot of talk going on. You had the woman screaming, "There's a man up there with a gun." And a number of people were screaming, "There's a guy up there with a gun." And they didn't have, the one group wasn't hooked into the other group. I'll tell you, the Secret Service shooter, David, was amazing. Because in 4 seconds, it was over. And if this lunatic was allowed to keep shooting, because they had a lot of, tens of thousands of people there, so a lot of people could have been killed. I mean, we lost a great person and 2 people very badly injured. But the shooter, 1 bullet, think of that, 1 bullet from a very far distance. It's amazing. So he was great.
Do you feel like it's changed you as a person?
I don't know, maybe and maybe not, but it's, I like to not think about it. It affects some people greatly. I can't afford to be affected because I have a job to do, so I like not to think about it.
Does it not go
if I think about it too much, it's probably not a good thing.
Does it not go through your mind at all on a morning like this morning when you're outside, there's a crowd and you're giving a speech?
I don't think about it. I don't. I think you see the kind of protection now. I think they're very good. It's a whole different level. Look, these people went to Biden and Biden's people and asked for more help because I was having rallies, 60,000, 70,000 people. I had 115,000 people, and Biden would have 2 people. Nobody wanted to see the guy. And he'd have a bigger security detail than I had. And they were asking. Sean and the various people were asking for more people, and they were denied. So they denied them, and so you could make that case. I don't think they've made that case well because I knew for a fact that they were asking for more people a lot. They haven't wanted. They have said it, but not that publicly. But they wanted more people, and the Biden people would not give it to them. And we had massive crowds. You were there. But we would have routinely 50, 60, 70,000 people, and he would have nobody. He couldn't fill the circles, the 8 circles, and he didn't need very many people. And so that was a problem.